In the 1830s, the wealthy Ambrose adopts his cousin Philip after the young man's parents die. Ambrose raises Philip as if he were his own son, ignoring the advice of friends who insist Philip needs a female presence in his life. However, Ambrose forbids women in the house, except for his beloved female dogs. As time passes, Philip leaves to study in the city, but he soon returns, uninterested in academics and preferring life on the estate. Unfortunately, Ambrose grows older and ill, and the doctor advises him to move to a sunnier climate to improve his health. Ambrose relocates to Florence and keeps in touch with Philip through letters, which he also shares with Philip's godfather, Nick, and Nick's daughter, Louise. One summer, Philip receives shocking news: Ambrose has begun a romance with Rachel, his widowed cousin. This is surprising since Ambrose had never shown any interest in women. In the fall, they marry. Louise teases Philip, saying he'll soon have to find a new home, but he isn't too concerned, as Ambrose seems to have forgotten all about the estate. However, the tone of the following letters begins to worry Philip. Ambrose writes that he can barely manage to write when Rachel isn't watching him, as she's always keeping a close eye on him. He insists that Philip is the only person he can trust. He also says his health has worsened and suspects Rachel is to blame. According to Ambrose, the doctor treating him, recommended by a suspicious friend of Rachel's named Enrico, is being bribed by her to lie about his condition. In one envelope, Ambrose includes a desperate plea for Philip to rescue him from his own wife. Philip rushes to Florence but arrives too late. Ambrose is dead. The house is empty, and he finds only Enrico, whom Philip confronts for answers. Enrico claims Ambrose died from a brain tumor that affected his mind, making him paranoid and violent. Rachel disappeared the day after the funeral, taking all of Ambrose's personal belongings with her, but she expressed her wish for the Florence house to be sold. Enrico, who turns out to be Rachel's lawyer, offers Philip a copy of the death certificate and says he's willing to maintain friendly relations with the family. However, Philip doesn't trust him and swears to take revenge on Rachel for his cousin's death. Back at the estate, Philip steps into his new role as master, as the staff now call him. Nick reviews Ambrose's will, which hasn't been changed in 10 years and therefore includes no provisions for a wife. This means that the entire estate will legally belong to Philip on his next birthday. Philip is surprised that Ambrose left nothing for Rachel, but it strengthens his belief that she killed him for money. Nick, however, believes Philip is imagining things. While assuring the staff that everything will remain the same, Philip receives word from the city Rachel has arrived in England. He decides to invite her to stay at his home, although he avoids offering her Ambrose's room as it now belongs to him. Instead, he cleans up an old guest room for her with Louise's help, who volunteers to stay and support him. It's clear that Louise has feelings for Philip, but while he appreciates her company, he prefers to face the matter alone. On the day of Rachel's arrival, Philip goes horseback, riding on purpose to make her wait, also instructing the servants not to serve her dinner until he returns. However, when he gets back, he discovers that Ambrose's belongings have already been sent to his room and that Rachel has retreated to hers with the dogs, too tired to dine. Still, she invites him to visit her after his meal. When Philip visits, he's surprised to find Rachel is young and beautiful. She's startled by his appearance as he closely resembles Ambrose. During their conversation, Rachel surprises Philip with several things. She knows how to prepare tea and biscuits, remembers all the stories Ambrose told her about the estate, and even makes Philip laugh with a joke. He's charmed by her kindness, but when the conversation becomes awkward, Rachel quickly dismisses him. As the days go by, Philip and Rachel spend more time together, enjoying horseback rides and sharing their interest in the estate. One morning, after attending Mass, they have lunch with friends and family. Louise, clearly jealous of their growing closeness, can't hide her discomfort. Rachel later jokes about it, but Philip denies anything and admits he prefers looking at Rachel rather than Louise. However, the conversation takes a turn when Rachel mentions she's running out of money and may have to give Italian lessons to get by. Philip makes a dark joke about widows pawning their wedding rings, which offends Rachel and causes her to leave the room. The next day, Philip visits Nick to request a monthly allowance for Rachel, believing it's what Ambrose would have wanted. Louise warns him that Rachel is manipulating him. When he returns home, he finds Rachel preparing one of her special teas, which tastes bad but according to her is healthy. However, when she hears about the allowance, Rachel becomes offended, feeling humiliated and treated like a beggar. Philip tries to calm her, reminding her that, as Ambrose's heir, it's his duty to ensure she lives well. That night, Rachel sends him a note apologizing and agrees to stay longer, thanking Philip with a kiss before saying goodnight. Rachel continues to receive letters from Enrico, but Philip chooses to ignore them for now. She also helps sick workers with her special tea, which inspires Philip to do the same. During a horseback ride, Philip shows Rachel the letter in which Ambrose accused her of being his torment, but then burns it, admitting that his initial hatred for her was unfair. As they spend more time together, Philip begins planning surprises for her, like decorating a tree for Christmas and giving her his mother's pearls. On Christmas Eve, Rachel wears the pearls and thanks Philip with a more passionate kiss. The celebration at the estate is joyful, but not everyone is pleased. Nick tells Philip that Rachel has overdrawn her account by sending money abroad. Philip refuses to believe she has bad intentions, defending her generosity, and orders an increase in her allowance. However, Nick also brings up rumors about Rachel's past, including scandals involving her first husband. Although Philip stands up for her, the conversation ends when Rachel returns the pearls, saying she doesn't want to cause family tensions. Later, Rachel shows Philip an unsigned will Ambrose had written, which would have left everything to her. She confesses that she lost a child and that her relationship with Ambrose began to fall apart afterward. Feeling compassion, Philip promises her she will always have a place on the estate. Nevertheless, he arranges a new will in which he transfers his entire fortune to Rachel, with a clause stating that if she remarries, the inheritance returns to him. Convinced he's doing the right thing despite Nick's warnings, Philip goes ahead with it. Back at the house, Philip takes a path near the cliff, but the ground gives way beneath the horse's hooves. Fortunately, he manages to hold on and avoid falling. That night, he eagerly waits for midnight so he can climb up to Rachel's window and spend the first hours of his birthday with her. He hands her the envelope with the new will to read later and gifts her all of his mother's jewels, encouraging her to wear the pearls immediately. Shyly, Philip asks to stay with her that night and Rachel agrees. The next morning, Philip prepares everything for a picnic, but Rachel has gone to the city. Impatient, he waits for her by the roadside. When she finally returns, she explains that she visited Nick to clarify some of the legal clauses in the will. Even though she knows Nick disapproves of her, she says he was very polite. Philip takes her to a flower field for the picnic and convinces her to share an intimate moment with him, although she seems distant and not very enthusiastic. That same evening, while preparing for the birthday dinner, Rachel sends one of her herbal infusions, which Philip drinks gladly. During the meal, he starts suffering from a strong headache and strange visions, but does his best to stay composed so he can announce to everyone his intention to marry Rachel. However, she appears shocked and embarrassed, making it clear she wasn't aware of his plans. After Nick and Louise leave, Rachel explains that she only agreed to be with him those 2 times as a gesture of gratitude for the jewels and the will, not because she shared his feelings. Confused and hurt, Philip loses control and grabs her first by the arm, then by the neck, accidentally breaking her pearl necklace. This act brings him back to his senses and he lets go. The next day, Louise contacts Philip for a private meeting, concerned for him after weeks of strange behavior. During their talk, Philip admits he misread Rachel's feelings. Louise points out a disturbing coincidence. Rachel changed her behavior toward him right after reading the will and after Nick explained the marriage clause. Although Philip insists that everything he owns would also be Rachel's if they got married, Louise reminds him that a wife cannot send money abroad and must stay by her husband's side. Back at the house, Philip finds Rachel with a new companion she has hired, saying she no longer feels safe alone with him. That very night, Philip collapses in front of them. When he wakes up, 5 days have passed. He's been gravely ill, suffering from fever, headaches, and strange visions. Rachel dismisses her companion to care for him personally, regularly giving him her herbal teas. Still, she often leaves on horseback, and when Philip asks about it, she promises she has no intention of leaving permanently. One day, while flipping through Ambrose's books to distract himself, Philip finds a note in which Ambrose accuses Rachel of poisoning him with her tea. Still weak, Philip secretly follows her to town and sees her meeting Enrico, who greets her with a kiss on the lips. Later, he confronts her, and Rachel admits she invited Enrico to England because she needed his advice but avoids giving further details. When Philip demands she send Enrico away, Rachel refuses, claiming she has the right to live her life and might even invite Enrico to stay in the house, when she considers her own. Enraged, Philip lashes out, prompting Rachel to grab a poker to defend herself, warning she'll call the servants if he makes another move. In a moment of vulnerability, she breaks down emotionally, and Philip hugs her to apologize. Days later, one of the servants finds a note in a donated coat that had belonged to Ambrose. Philip takes it to Louise, who reads it aloud. In it, Ambrose writes about his growing suspicion that Rachel was poisoning him. Racked with guilt, Philip feels like a fool, but it's too late. Rachel has taken over the household, hosting gatherings and luncheons. One day, during one of these events, Rachel prepares tea for Philip and Louise, making sure Louise doesn't drink from the cup meant for him. Suspicious, Philip refuses to drink, claiming he's not in the mood. Later, Rachel announces she'll go horseback riding. Philip, without mentioning the earlier cliffside accident, suggests she try the scenic route for its views. Once she leaves, Philip and Louise search her belongings for clues. They find a letter from the bank thanking Rachel for returning the jewels, which will be kept in the vault until Philip inherits them again. They also find a letter from Enrico suggesting she take Philip to Italy to improve his health. At that moment, Louise reveals that Nick discovered Enrico is homosexual. Torn by guilt, Philip rides to the cliff path, but he's too late. Rachel has fallen and is dead. Years later, Philip is married to Louise and they have 2 children, but the memory of Rachel never leaves him. He constantly wonders whether she was truly guilty or innocent as the headaches continue to haunt him. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell so you never miss a recap. See you in the next one.